I want you to just think about the last viral meme you saw about, like, a public figure. Just picture it in your head for a second.
Oh, I bet it was something snarky.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Like a screenshot with some sarcastic caption or maybe a video clip that's deliberately cut off
Yeah.
right before the person could actually explain themselves.
Yeah, we see those literally all the time.
We do. And now, be honest with yourself. How much of that meme did you just automatically assume was the absolute unvarnished truth? Like, did you actually look up the original interview?
Definitely, yeah.
Right? Did you track down the primary source? Or did you just, chuckle, accept the joke, and keep scrolling?
I mean, look, we all fall into that trap. It's human nature. The brain is just constantly looking for ways to conserve energy, right? And a meme is, well, it's the ultimate cognitive shortcut.
He totally is.
It packages a conclusion and a punchline into a single image so you don't have to do the heavy lifting of actual research.
And that cognitive shortcut is exactly the core of what we are pulling apart today. We're doing a deep dive into some excerpts from a text called Ashida Kim and the Internet Smear Machine.
Which is a fascinating read, by the way.
It really is. Now, on its surface, this material focuses on the legacy of Ashida Kim, who is, a highly controversial figure in the martial arts world. But I want to be clear, our mission today isn't to arbitrate martial arts history.
Oh, far from it. I mean, the martial arts setting is really just the laboratory for this case study.
Exactly. We are using this specific case to explore a much broader, much more pervasive phenomena. The text argues that regardless of whatever legitimate questions might exist about his claims or his lineage or his techniques, the internet has basically subjected him to a trial by meme.
A trial by meme.
It's a literal masterclass in how online ecosystems can systematically take a complex human life, and we were talking about decades of actual documented work here, and just violently compress it into a two-dimensional punchline.
It's scary how fast it happens, too.
It is. So the goal here is to figure out how we can train ourselves to actually spot this machinery operating in our own daily feeds.
So, okay, let's unpack this. How does a person's entire reputation get systematically dismantled online? Like, what are the actual mechanical gears of this smear machine?
Well, what's really fascinating here is that the text identifies a highly predictable, like almost algorithmic progression.
Really?
Yeah. The internet smear machine, it doesn't require some coordinated conspiracy in a dark room. It operates totally organically through this 5-step life cycle.
Okay, walk us through it.
So it always starts with an initial accusation. But, an accusation alone is kind of dry. It doesn't really travel well on the internet.
Right. People get bored.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the ecosystem quickly morphs that accusation into step 2, which is mockery.
Because mockery is the actual currency of the internet.
Right. It guarantees engagement. It creates this in-group of people who get the joke, right? And an out-group of the person being laughed at.
It makes you want to join in. It incentivizes participation. Totally. And once that mockery is established, the third phase takes over, which is repetition.
Just hammering it over and over.
Yep. Through sheer volume, people sharing the joke, reacting to the joke, remixing the meme, the narrative hardens into the fourth stage, assumption.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the joke is repeated so often that the audience just naturally assumes there must be some factual foundation beneath it. Like, everyone's saying it, so it must be true.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Exactly. And that leads to the final terminal stage, common knowledge. And this is the dangerous part, because once a society or even just a subculture decides a specific narrative is common knowledge, the investigation phase permanently closes.
Nobody checks the facts anymore.
Right. It's locked in.
It's basically like that childhood game of telephone, right? But instead of the message just getting accidentally garbled as it goes around the circle, it gets actively weaponized.
Ooh, yeah. Weaponized telephone.
The message gets sharper and meaner and increasingly detached from reality with every single whisper. Because the people whispering are just trying to outdo each other's outrage.
That is a highly accurate analogy. In fact, there's a quote directly from Ashida Kim in our sources that diagnoses this vulnerability perfectly. He notes, and I'm quoting here, "People will seldom believe what you tell them, but they will always believe what they assume."
Wow. Always believe what they assume. That is a chillingly precise summary of online media consumption.
It really is. It exposes the fatal flaw in how we process digital information. The smear machine doesn't actually need to litigate every single claim against a target. It just needs to train the audience on what default assumption to hold.
Right.
Contrast this with an actual physical legal trial. A courtroom is designed to deliberately slow down human judgment.
That's a great point.
It demands rules of evidence, the right to cross-examination, and crucially, the burden of context. It forces you to recognize complexity. But a trial by meme, that's designed to accelerate judgment to the speed of a single scroll.
Right. And in a trial by meme, the most entertaining insult just mathematically defeats a careful, nuanced explanation every single time. An out-of-context screenshot with a sarcastic caption is going to travel 1,000,000 miles before a primary source document even gets its boots on.
Because the internet is an attention economy, it functionally bypasses critical thinking because the meme, it doesn't present itself as an argument that requires your logical evaluation.
So what does it present itself as?
It presents itself as an inside joke that you are socially invited to join. And refusing the joke, that means isolating yourself from the group.
Which is such a massive social pressure.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be the one person ruining the joke.
Exactly.
But here is where the dynamic shifts from just, social conformity into actual psychological entrenchment. Once that entertainment value establishes the meme as common knowledge, how does the online mob handle any actual verifiable facts that contradict the joke? Like, what happens then?
Well, the text maps this out, and it's wild. It shows how the narrative hermetically seals itself using confirmation bias.
It becomes a closed loop.
Right. This raises a huge question about the architecture of online feedback loops. Because the audience has already internalized the assumption that the target is a fraud or a villain, any new data point is instantly stripped of its objective meaning.
And it gets violently reinterpreted to fit the established meme.
Yes. The sources illustrate this brilliantly with how the martial arts community treats Ashida Kim. Once the collective online narrative decided, okay, this guy is entirely fake, every single professional action he took was filtered through this incredibly hostile, cynical lens.
Right, the text provides these really stark examples. Like if he requires a professional appearance fee to show up at an event, the internet doesn't call it standard business practice. They label it an excuse to avoid showing up.
Exactly. Or if he asks for a standard liability release before doing a physical demonstration, which is normal, it's immediately branded as cowardice.
And if he happens to have a loyal student who speaks highly of him.
Oh, that student is instantly dismissed as deluded or brainwashed.
Right. Or if a supportive interview is published, the interviewer is preemptively attacked as being biased.
The burden of proof just infinitely shifts. No evidence in his favor is ever permitted to challenge the core assumption.
It is a completely sealed ecosystem where the conclusion was basically written before the evidence was ever gathered. And the text makes this vital distinction that we really have to underline here, the fundamental difference between criticism and a smear.
They operate on entirely different ethical frameworks.
Break that down for us.
So criticism is an analytical tool. It asks specific questions, it examines the provided evidence, and it fundamentally allows for complexity.
Okay.
A smear, on the other hand, is an instrument of social control. A smear strips a person of their inherent dignity. It repeats predetermined conclusions rather than asking questions. And above all, a smear requires a villain to function.
So criticism leaves room for a conversation.
Right. Criticism says, let's look at this documentation carefully and see where we disagree. A smear just says, oh, come on, everybody already knows.
Everybody already knows. Wow. That is the ultimate thought-terminating cliche. It gives the speaker permission to just completely stop thinking.
Exactly.
And in the process of executing this smear, the text points out a massive intentional blind spot. The internet completely memory holes his actual body of work.
Just pretends it doesn't exist.
Right. We are talking about a man who has spent decades writing books, publishing extensive instructional materials, making public appearances, and maintaining a historical connection with the Black Dragon Fighting Society.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with a single word he says to objectively acknowledge that he has a tangible, lasting, decades-long legacy.
But the internet mob just squeaks all of that physical reality right off the table in favor of a digital punchline.
Why is it so easy for them to do that?
Because dealing with a decades-long body of work requires a massive investment of time. It requires reading, contextualizing, synthesizing. A meme requires half a second of your visual attention. The mob will always choose the path of least cognitive resistance.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because I'm listening to us discuss this, and I kind of hear you, the listener, probably pushing back a little bit right now.
Oh, for sure.
You might be thinking, but wait a second. If a guy is out there claiming to know secret ninja arts or discussing invisibility, mysticism, or esoteric combat techniques, isn't it completely fair for the public to be highly skeptical? Doesn't the martial arts community have a responsibility to call that out?
And it's a completely fair question. The text actually addresses that exact pushback directly, and it fully validates the need for skepticism.
Right. It's not saying you have to just believe everything.
Not at all. Asking for concrete evidence, requesting clear documentation of lineage, or having deep technical disagreements about the efficacy of a technique, that is all necessary. It's legitimate in the martial arts world, just as it is in the scientific or academic world.
But there's a but coming.
Big time.
Yeah.
The author draws a very sharp defining line between skepticism and cynicism.
It is such a crucial distinction. Walk us through how the text separates the two.
So a skeptic approaches a claim and says, show me the evidence so I can understand. A cynic approaches a claim and says, I already know it's false, so let's laugh at it.
The intent is totally different.
Exactly. A skeptic leaves the door open to actually change their mind if they're presented with compelling new information. A cynic derives their core identity from the fact that their mind is permanently closed.
Wow.
A skeptic investigates to find truth. A cynic mocks to find status.
That's a profound way to look at it.
And the issue here isn't that Ashida Kim faced criticism. He did, and that's fine. The issue is that the online hostility operated almost entirely on cynicism. It started from a baseline of contempt and then frantically scoured the internet for any out-of-context material to justify that contempt. That isn't truth-seeking. That is systematic reputation destruction.